Stop. Do not scroll past this. Whatever you were doing right now, wherever your mind was wandering, I need you to bring it all the way back, because what you are about to hear was not placed in front of you by accident. This is not random. The fact that this video found you at this exact moment, on this exact day, tells me something very specific about who you are and what you are currently walking through. You are not here by chance. You never are. And deep down, in that quiet place inside you that never lies, you already know that. Something pulled you here. Something beyond logic, beyond the algorithm, beyond the noise of your everyday life. That something is real, and it has been trying to get your attention for a very long time. Chosen one, listen carefully. I need you to understand what I'm about to say before we go any further, because this message was built specifically for someone like you. Not for everyone, not for the crowds, for the ones who feel things deeper than most people can understand. For the ones who wake up at 3 a.m. with a heaviness they cannot name. For the ones who look around at their lives and sense with every fiber of their being that they were built for something more rife, that is, you stay right where you are. Because what comes next in this video may be the most important thing you hear all year. Type yes if this speaks to your spirit. There is a person in your life right now, maybe someone you trusted, maybe someone you loved deeply, someone you gave pieces of yourself to that you have never given anyone else. Maybe someone who smiled at you while quietly working against everything you were trying to build. And here is what I need you to know. You were right about them. You were 100% right, that feeling you had, that quiet unease, that subtle discomfort that made you question yourself, that made you wonder if you were being too sensitive, too paranoid, too spiritual. It was not paranoia, it was perception. And there is a massive difference between the two. Paranoia is fear without evidence. Perception is wisdom disguised as intuition. And you, chosen one, have always had perception far beyond your years. You have never been ordinary. Not once. Not even on the days when you desperately wanted to be. You remember those days, don't you? The days when you looked at other people and wondered why life seemed to flow so easily for them, while yours felt like you were constantly swimming upstream, constantly being tested, constantly being pushed to the edge of what you thought you could handle. You wondered what was wrong with you. You wondered why you could not just be normal, just be simple, just be like everyone else. But here is the truth that your soul has always known, even when your mind tried to argue against it. You were never meant to be like everyone else. The very things that made you feel broken were the things that were making you different. The very things that made you feel alone were the things that were setting you apart. Nothing about your life has been accidental. God has been preparing you, not punishing you, preparing you. There is a difference so profound, so life-changing, that once you truly understand it, you will never look at your struggles the same way again. Every betrayal you survived was a course correction. Every loss that broke your heart was removing something that would have held you back from where you are actually going. Every moment of isolation, every night you cried and felt like no one could possibly understand what you were carrying, every season where it felt like the whole world was moving forward and you were standing still, all of it, every single piece of it was purposeful. It was intentional. You were being shaped in the dark because the thing God is preparing you for requires a strength that can only be built in the fire. And now, here you are, still standing. That alone should tell you something extraordinary about who you are. But let us go back to that person, because this is where it gets very important. This is where I need you to lean in, chosen one, because what I am about to share with you is the confirmation your spirit has been waiting for. That person, the one your gut has been warning you about, they have not been who they presented themselves to be, and you felt it. You felt it before you had any proof. You felt it in the way the energy shifted when they walked into a room. You felt it in the way certain conversations left you feeling drained instead of filled. You felt it in the way your peace would disappear whenever they were nearby, and then slowly return when they were gone. Your body was telling you the truth long before your mind was ready to accept it. This is your confirmation. Your instincts did not lie. There is a reason you are hearing this today, Because the universe, God, the divine, whatever name resonates most deeply in your spirit, it does not allow the chosen ones to stay deceived forever. There comes a point in every spiritually awakened person's journey where the curtain gets pulled back, where the hidden things become visible, where the mask slips and the truth stands right there in front of you, undeniable, impossible to look away from. That moment has either already happened for you or it is about to, and either way, this video is preparing you for it, not to send you into fear, not to send you into rage or revenge, but to anchor you in the truth so deeply that when it comes, you are ready, you are grounded, you are clear. Because chosen ones are never destroyed by revelation, they are freed by it. Let me tell you something about the kind of people who come into the lives of spiritually sensitive souls. They are rarely obvious, they rarely announce themselves. They do not walk into your life wearing a sign that says danger, warning, this person will hurt you. No. They walk in wearing something that looks remarkably like everything you have been praying for. They show up in the shape of the answer to your loneliness. They speak in the language of your deepest desires. They mirror back to you the things you most want to see and feel and experience. And for a time, everything feels like confirmation, like finally something is going right. Finally, someone sees me. Finally, I am not alone in this. And that is by design. Not by accident, by deliberate, calculated design. The kind of person who targets a chosen one is not random. They are drawn to your light, the way moths are drawn to a flame, not because they want to bask in it, but because something in them wants to extinguish it. They see your sensitivity and they call it weakness, when really it is your greatest power. They see your compassion and they use it as a door. They see your faith and they smile because they know that someone with your level of belief, your level of love, your level of genuine goodness will give chance after chance after chance. They know you will try to see the best in them. They know you will pray for them, forgive them, make excuses for them, question yourself before you ever question them. They know this, and chosen one, I am here to tell you they have been counting on it. Comment Amen if you feel chosen. But here is what they did not count on. Here is what they completely underestimated when they decided to enter your life and your space and your energy. They did not count on God. They did not count on the divine protection that moves around a chosen soul like an invisible shield, not always preventing the pain, but always ensuring that the pain serves a purpose. They did not count on the fact that every wound they gave you would eventually become a wisdom that made you untouchable to the next person who tried the same thing. They thought they were breaking you down. They had no idea they were building you up. They thought they were stealing from you. They had no idea that everything they took was already being replaced by something far more powerful, far more aligned, far more real. You may have noticed that your seasons of greatest suffering have always been followed by your seasons of greatest clarity. You may have noticed that the moments in your life where everything fell apart were the very moments that preceded your most significant breakthroughs. That is not coincidence. That is not luck. That is the fingerprint of God on a chosen life. That is what it looks like when the divine is actively involved in someone's story, reshaping the narrative even when the person living it cannot yet see where it is going. You were never abandoned in your pain. You were being authored through it, even in your hardest moments. Even in the moments where the grief was so heavy that getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. Even in the moments where the betrayal was so sharp that you questioned your own judgment, your own worth, your own ability to ever trust another living soul again. Even then you were not alone. A force greater than what you can fully comprehend was present with you in those rooms, sitting in the silence with you, holding the weight that your human hands could not carry. Not fixing everything immediately, because immediate fixes do not build character, they only delay growth. But staying, remaining, faithful in the waiting, even when your faith felt threadbare, even when the prayers felt like they were hitting the ceiling and bouncing back. And now you are here. And something is shifting. Can you feel it? There is a reason the energy around your life has been changing lately. You may not have the words for it yet, but there is something different in the atmosphere around you. Something is moving. Something is being realigned. Doors that were locked for what felt like forever are beginning to have a different feeling around them, like they are no longer sealed shut, but simply waiting for the right moment to swing open. Relationships that once drained you are beginning to fall away naturally, without drama, without force, simply dissolving because they no longer match the frequency you are now vibrating at. And people, new people, aligned people, people who carry the same depth and the same hunger for truth and purpose that you carry, they are beginning to appear in your periphery. This is not wishful thinking, this is spiritual sequence, and you are right in the middle of it. But before that door opens fully, there is something that must be dealt with. And that brings us back to this person. Because you cannot walk fully into your next chapter if you are still allowing someone who means you harm to have access to your energy, your time, your emotional resources, your trust, your light. And I know how difficult this is for someone with your heart. Because you do not want to be the kind of person who gives up on people. You do not want to be the kind of person who closes doors. Everything in your nature wants to believe that if you just love hard enough, if you just pray hard enough, if you just give enough grace, something will change, something will click, they will wake up, they will choose to be better, they will finally see you. Chosen one, some people are not in your life to be transformed by your love. Some people are in your life to test whether you love yourself enough to protect your light. That is one of the hardest truths a spiritually sensitive person can ever receive. Because it feels like giving up. It feels like failing. It feels like choosing yourself at the expense of someone else, and for someone like you, that can feel almost sinful, like you are abandoning a person who needs you. But here is the truth your spirit already knows. Even if your heart is still catching up to it, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot heal someone who is not interested in being healed, who is only interested in what your healing gives them access to. And staying in a dynamic that slowly, quietly, invisibly drains everything good and true and powerful inside of you is not compassion. It is not love. It is self-abandonment. And God does not call the chosen ones to abandon themselves for people who are assigned to keep them small. Nothing about your life has been accidental, and neither is the timing of this realization. Let me talk about the specific things this person has been doing. Not with names, not with details you have given me, because I have not needed them. What I know is something deeper than circumstance. I know the pattern, and chosen ones across the world, from every background and every culture and every walk of life, recognize these patterns because the playbook never changes. The tactics of someone who wants to dim your light are always the same. They plant doubt, not loudly, not in obvious ways you can point to and say, look, this person is undermining me. No, they do it in whispers, in suggestions, in subtle questions that sound supportive on the surface but leave you feeling smaller underneath. They say things like, are you sure about that? Or, are you being realistic? Or, I just worry about you sometimes. And because it sounds like concern, because it wears the costume of care, you let it in. You turn those whispered doubts into internal monologue. You start asking yourself the questions they planted, convincing yourself that you thought of them on your own. You begin to shrink, you begin to hesitate. You begin to second-guess the very gifts and instincts and dreams that God placed inside you before you were even born. And that is what they wanted. That is the whole plan. They isolate you. Not physically necessarily, though sometimes that too, but energetically, spiritually. They create conditions in your life through drama, through neediness, through manufactured crises, through emotional manipulation. They create conditions that slowly pull you away from the people who truly love you, away from the practices that feed your spirit, away from the version of yourself that is most connected to God and most aligned with your purpose. They make themselves the center. They make themselves the need. And before you realize what has happened, you have built your entire emotional world around managing them, and somewhere in the process, you lost the thread of yourself. But here is the thing about a chosen one. You cannot be permanently lost. You can be delayed. You can be detoured. You can be temporarily turned around. But the divine compass inside you, the one that God installed before you drew your first breath, it always finds true north again. Always. No matter how far the detour takes you. No matter how deep the confusion gets. Something inside you always starts to stir. Something always starts to whisper. Something always starts to pull you back toward yourself, back toward your truth, back toward your purpose, back toward the life that was written for you long before this person ever entered the scene. You are feeling that pull right now. That is why you are here. Type 777 if you trust God's timing. I want to speak to the exhaustion for a moment, because I know it is real. And I know how deep it goes, and I know that some of you watching this have been carrying a weight that most people around you cannot see and would not understand, even if they could. The kind of exhaustion I am speaking about is not the kind that goes away with a good night of sleep. It is the exhaustion that lives in the bones, in the spirit, in the space behind the eyes. It is the exhaustion of a person who has been strong for too long without anyone ever stopping to ask them if they are okay. The exhaustion of someone who has been giving and giving and giving and pouring into others, into this person especially, while quietly, privately running on empty. And yet, chosen one, you are still here, still watching, still searching, still holding on to that ember of belief that refuses to go out completely, even when everything around you is wet and cold and dark. That ember is not stubbornness. That ember is not naivety. That ember is the divine within you refusing to let the divine purpose within you be extinguished. It is the part of you that knows, even when you cannot feel it, even when logic tells you otherwise, that this story is not over. That the best chapters are still unwritten. That the thing you have been waiting for, the breakthrough you have been praying toward, is not behind you. It is ahead. God has been preparing you for something that requires exactly the level of strength you have been building through exactly the kind of fire you have been walking through. Let that sink in. Let it really land in your spirit. The preparation matches the assignment, and the assignment, chosen one, is enormous. You were never ordinary. And this person, this individual who has been working against you, they may have thought they were stopping you. They may have told themselves a story in which they have some kind of power over your trajectory, some ability to determine whether or not you succeed, whether or not you shine, whether or not you step into the fullness of what you were created to become. But they were wrong. They have always been wrong. Because what God has ordained for a life, no human hand can permanently derail. They can slow things down, they can create detours, they can cost you time, energy, peace, relationships, sleep, tears, and they may have cost you all of those things, but they cannot touch your destiny. It is sealed. It is written. It was decided in a council far above anything they have access to. Even in your hardest moments, the outcome was never in question. Now, I want to tell you something about spiritual attacks, because what has been happening to you is not just interpersonal conflict. It is not just a difficult relationship or a frustrating personality clash. What has been happening to you has a spiritual dimension that most people in your life will not be able to see or validate. Chosen ones often experience what feels like coordinated opposition, like the moment they decide to grow, the moment they commit to their purpose, the moment they begin to step into their true identity, suddenly the resistance intensifies. Suddenly the person who was already difficult becomes more difficult. Suddenly new challenges appear. Suddenly the peace that was available to you becomes harder and harder to access. And you wonder, why right now? Why when I am trying so hard to get it right? Why when I am finally moving in the right direction? Because opposition targets movement. Because the enemy of your purpose does not bother with people who are not going anywhere. The attack that intensifies when you begin to advance is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are doing something right. It is evidence that something powerful sees where you are going and is desperately trying to interrupt the journey before you arrive. But a chosen one who understands this cannot be stopped by it. Understanding the nature of the attack changes your relationship to the resistance entirely. Instead of being shaken by the opposition, you become anchored by it. Because every wave of resistance becomes confirmation that the shore you are swimming toward is real. You are closer than you think. There is a reason you are hearing this today, and part of that reason is this: you are about to make a decision, or you have recently made one, or you are in the process of making one right now. A decision about this person, about this relationship, about this dynamic, about how much further you are willing to carry what they have put on you. And this video, this message, this moment right here is the universe, God, the divine speaking through whatever vessel is available to say, you are not crazy, you are not wrong, you are not being cruel, you are not abandoning your values, you are not failing anyone. You are practicing the most advanced form of spiritual maturity available to a human being, which is the ability to choose alignment over attachment, purpose over comfort, truth over the convenient lie that keeps the peace, but slowly kills the soul. This is not a small thing. This is everything. Let me speak now about what happens after, because I know that even as you feel the resonance of this message, even as your spirit is saying, yes, yes, this is it, this is what I have been feeling, there is still a part of you that is afraid of what comes next. What happens if I let this go? What happens if I create the distance? What happens if I stop being the one who holds everything together for them? What will they say? What will others think? Will I be okay? Will life be harder before it gets easier? And the answer to that last question is yes, probably, in the short term. Because change, even the right change, even the God-ordained change, has a cost. And that cost, for a chosen one, is usually felt in the emotional body before it is felt as the freedom it actually is. But on the other side of that cost is a version of your life that you have been catching glimpses of in your quietest moments. In those moments between sleeping and waking, when the future feels almost visible. In those moments of prayer where something bigger than your current circumstances whispers into your spirit that you are going to be okay, that it is going to be beautiful, that the waiting was not wasted. That version of your life is not a fantasy. It is a destination. And the decision you are approaching right now is part of the road that leads there. Like this video, if you feel this confirmation, God has been preparing you specifically for the moment you are now entering. Not a version of you that is harder, colder, less trusting, less loving. That is not what this journey was for. The version of you that is being built is wiser, more discerning, more rooted, more able to love deeply without losing yourself in the process, more able to give generously without leaving yourself empty, more able to open doors without leaving yourself unguarded. The fire did not burn away your heart, it burned away the parts that were keeping you from using your heart with wisdom. And wisdom, for a chosen one, is not the enemy of love. It is the guardian of it. You are becoming someone who cannot be fooled the same way again, not because you are closed, but because you are clear. Not because you are afraid, but because you are aware. And that awareness, that new level of discernment that has been growing in you through every painful experience with this person, it is one of the most valuable things you will carry into the rest of your life. It will protect you in ways you cannot yet imagine. It will serve you in relationships, in opportunities, in spaces you have not yet walked into. The wisdom bought by this pain is going to pay dividends for the rest of your life. Nothing, chosen one, was wasted. Not one tear, not one sleepless night, not one prayer that felt unanswered, not one moment of confusion, not one experience of betrayal. All of it, every single piece of it, has been woven into the fabric of who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is someone extraordinary, someone rare, Someone whose depth of understanding, whose capacity for authentic connection, whose spiritual sensitivity and emotional intelligence will touch lives in ways that most people never will. There is a reason you are hearing this today. And the reason is that you needed to be reminded. You needed someone, something, to look at you through the noise and the confusion and the pain of this situation and say, clearly, with no ambiguity, with no softening of the truth, you were right. You were 100% right about this person. Your instincts did not fail you. Your spirit did not mislead you. Your body did not lie to you. Every alarm that went off inside you when something felt wrong was accurate. Every moment of unease, every gut feeling, every quiet whisper of warning that you tried so hard to silence because you did not want to believe it, it was all real, it was all true. And now you know. And knowing, chosen one, is not the end. Knowing is the beginning. Because the moment you stop arguing with your own perception, the moment you stop spending your precious energy defending someone who is working against you, the moment you stop trying to fix a dynamic that was never yours to fix, that moment is the moment something extraordinary begins to happen. Your energy starts to return, not all at once, not overnight, but gradually, like dawn after a very long night, the light begins to come back. The things you were passionate about before this person dimmed your excitement start to stir again. The dreams you had shelved because there was no space for them in the emotional chaos start to whisper. The version of you that this person has never known, the version of you that existed before they entered the picture, starts to step forward again. And that version of you is someone to behold. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be someone else's emotional management system. You were never meant to pour yourself into someone who views your light as a resource to drain rather than a gift to be honored. You were always meant to be exactly who you are, fully, unapologetically, powerfully, beautifully who you are. And that person you are, the full version, undiminished, unshrunken, unafraid, that person is someone that this world desperately needs. And the world is about to meet them. Type 222 if you are ready for breakthrough. I want to talk about divine timing for a moment, because I know that one of the things that weighs on you is the sense that things have taken too long, that the answers should have come sooner, that the clarity should have arrived before so much damage was done, that if God was truly guiding your path, certain things would not have happened at all, and certainly would not have taken this long to resolve. And I want you to sit with this truth very carefully, because it is one of the most important things I can offer you in this message. Divine timing is not the same as human comfort. God's timing is not organized around your preference for speed. It is organized around your readiness for what is coming. And readiness is not built in a moment. It is built in seasons, long, difficult, stretching, sometimes agonizing seasons where every layer of who you are is being tested, examined, refined, and ultimately made more capable of holding what the next season contains. The delay was not abandonment, the silence was not absence. The long wait was not evidence that you were forgotten. It was evidence that what is coming requires a version of you that could not have been built any faster than it was. You needed every single one of those experiences to become who you needed to be for what is coming next. Even the ones that hurt the most. Especially the ones that hurt the most. And the person we have been talking about, the one who has been working against you, whether consciously or not, they too were part of the preparation. Not because God approved of their behavior, not because what they did was okay or justifiable or spiritually sanctioned, but because God can use even what was meant for harm and make it serve your transformation. That is not a spiritual platitude. That is a testimony that has been lived out by every chosen soul who has ever walked through fire and emerged on the other side, holding wisdom they could not have acquired any other way. You are becoming someone who cannot be easily shaken, someone who knows from the inside out what real love looks and feels and behaves like, because you have experienced the counterfeit so deeply that you can now recognize the genuine from miles away. Someone who understands spiritual warfare not as an abstract concept, but as a lived reality, which means you are far better equipped than most people to navigate it going forward. Someone who knows the difference between peace that comes from God and relief that comes from simply avoiding conflict. Someone who knows what it costs to carry a light in dark spaces and who has paid that cost and who has chosen to keep the light burning anyway. That is a chosen one. That is you right now, exactly as you are. You may have noticed that even during this difficult season, moments of unexpected beauty would break through. A song that made you catch your breath with how perfectly it described what you were feeling. A message from someone who had no idea what you were going through, but said exactly what your spirit needed to hear. A moment in prayer or in nature or in the middle of an ordinary day where something shifted, just briefly, just enough, where the peace of God dropped into your chest like a stone into still water, creating ripples outward, and for just that moment, everything felt okay. Felt more than okay, felt meaningful, felt held. Those moments were not accidents. Those were God reaching through the circumstances to remind you that the circumstances are not the whole story, that there is a narrative above the narrative, that the chapter you are currently in is not the final chapter, that what feels like an ending is actually, in the fuller version of the story, a pivotal turning point. The kind of turning point that, when you look back on it from where you will eventually stand, you will be able to see with perfect clarity was the moment everything actually began to change. This is not the end of your story. This is the end of a chapter. And the chapter that is coming, the one that begins the moment you truly choose yourself, choose your light, choose your alignment, choose to trust God's plan over your attachment to familiar pain. That chapter, chosen one, is going to be unlike anything you have ever lived before. Listen carefully. I am not speaking in generalities. I'm not offering you spiritual comfort food with no substance underneath. I'm speaking to something specific about your life, your spirit, your situation, because the divine intelligence that arranged for this message to find you today did not do it carelessly. It did not scatter this video into the universe randomly and hope it happened to reach someone who needed it. It reached you. It was always going to reach you. Because you are the kind of person that God pursues, not the kind that God waits patiently for on a corner hoping they happen to walk by, but the kind that God actively, relentlessly, creatively seeks out. Through music and strangers and dreams and videos on a screen at whatever time it is, wherever you are right now. You are being pursued by a love that has never once stopped believing in you. Not when you stopped believing in yourself. Not when the circumstances made it feel impossible. Not when the person we have been discussing made you feel like maybe you were not as special, as worthy, as destined as you once believed. That love never wavered. It never blinked. It never lost the thread of who you are and what you carry and where you are going. And it is that love, right now, in this moment, speaking through whatever instrument is available, saying, come back to yourself. Come back to your faith. Come back to your purpose. Come back to the truth of who you are. We are not done. We have barely begun. You were never ordinary. This is your confirmation. There is a reason you are hearing this today, and the reason is that you are ready to release what has been holding you, ready to step into what has been waiting, ready to become the full, unfiltered, undimmed, unapologetic expression of the extraordinary soul that you have always been. Not someday, not after more suffering, not once you have proven yourself worthy through more sacrifice. Now, right now, in this moment, with everything exactly as it is, you are ready. God has been preparing you, and the preparation is complete enough. You are equipped enough, you are strong enough, you are wise enough, you are loved enough, you are chosen, fully, completely, irrevocably chosen. And nothing, not this person, not this season, not this pain, not this confusion, not the enemy of your purpose, not the weight of the past. Nothing can change that. Nothing ever could. Nothing ever will. Type 1111 to affirm this message. So here is what I am asking you to do as you leave this video. Not tomorrow, not when things are easier. Right now, I am asking you to make one decision. One simple but seismic decision. I am asking you to decide fully in the deepest part of yourself to stop arguing with your own spirit, to stop managing the feelings that have been telling you the truth, to stop making excuses for what your soul has already judged with perfect clarity, to trust yourself. Not blindly, not recklessly, but with the grounded, God-anchored trust of someone who has been tested enough to know that their instincts are real, their perception is accurate, their spirit is connected to something real and true and living. You were right. You are right. And now, with that confirmed, you can move. You can breathe. You can begin to take the steps, however small, however quiet, that lead you away from what has been limiting you and toward what has been calling you. And those steps do not have to be dramatic. They do not have to be announced. They do not have to be understood by anyone who is not on the inside of your life with you. They only have to be real. They only have to be genuine. They only have to be yours. Even in your hardest moments, you are being guided. And you are being guided still, right now, in this decision. In this moment, in this turning. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. And as you move forward from here, as you take the next step and the next and the next, you are going to find that the road ahead is more beautiful than you dared to hope for during the long, dark season that is now ending. You are going to find that the people who were meant to walk with you were simply being positioned while you were being prepared. You are going to find that the dreams that felt impossible were not impossible. They were simply not yet time. And the time, chosen one, is now coming with a speed and a grace and a joy that is going to take your breath away. Hold on, stay the course, trust the process, trust God, trust yourself. You were chosen before the foundations of the world were laid for exactly this moment, in exactly this life. And the story that was written for you before you ever arrived here is one of redemption, of breakthrough, of abundance, of purpose lived out loud with nothing held back and no one standing in the way. This is not the end. This is where it truly, finally, beautifully begins. Nothing about your life has been accidental, and nothing about what comes next will be either. You are covered, you are guided, you are chosen, and the best is not behind you. It is written ahead of you in ink that cannot be erased. Walk toward it without fear. Walk toward it with everything you have. Because everything you have, even now, even after everything, is more than enough. God has been preparing you, and you are ready.